Welcome back to Nightstand Coffee. This is episode 9 of season 1, and I am Todd.
And this is Jennifer.
And today, what are we talking about, Jennifer?
We're going to talk about trust.
Trust. Trust is incredibly important in our marriage, and really in any relationship. Yeah. That's going to last. That's going to be really beneficial to us and to help us to grow, to help us to accomplish the things we want to accomplish in life, to be successful. I mean, trust is just incredibly important in every human relationship, but none more so than marriage.
Well, and I think it's one of those things that kind of comes and goes, if that makes sense. Like, I think a lot of times we might do a lot of trusting in dating, and then that shifts once you're married. Or the opposite can be true. You may do a lot of not trusting before you're married,
right.
And once you are, you feel like you can trust them. And so I think that kind of has some waxing and waning depending on the season and their particular relationship.
Yeah, and I mean, it certainly doesn't happen in a vacuum, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, depending on what your experience was before you met your spouse, you may generally be trusting, you know, like you may have grown up in an environment where it was safe to trust pretty much everybody. And so you trust first, right? That's your default for other people. Maybe they grew up in an environment where trusting people was really dangerous, where, you know, and so you're skeptical of everybody. You keep everybody at arm's length. You know, and so depending on which one of those which end of that spectrum you were on, you know, it might have had an impact on your relationship from the very start. Maybe you've learned to trust over time. Maybe you've learned not to trust over time. And there's all kinds of shades, you know, in different ways that this could be unfolding in your relationship in particular.
Well, and so, and I think it can be small things or big things, you know, like it can be like, you know, I don't trust you to remember to take the trash out.
Right.
Or I don't trust you not to cheat on me.
Yeah.
You know?
And those impact your relationship in very different ways.
Definitely. And so I think that's something that we have to be mindful of, especially if you're the one that's not being trusted. Then I think that it's really the impetus is on you to work to rebuild it.
Yeah.
And you have to have some awareness of that and not bitterness about it.
Right.
So anyway, I think there's just a lot of layers.
So let's kind of dive into that. What would something like that look like? So, give us a scenario, maybe.
Oh man. Well, I mean, like, I think finances is a lot of things that people don't trust about. So, usually there's a spender and usually there's a saver. That's not true for us. We both tend to be spenders, I think. But like usually there's one person that has the responsibility of the finances, and then the other person isn't as invested or doesn't care about them or doesn't feel that way. It doesn't hold that weight of responsibility. And so then oftentimes the person that manages the finances doesn't trust the person who doesn't, you know, because they're like, oh, it's not a big deal. Well, it'll be fine. And so, or they'll do something like maybe they're in credit card debt and they don't tell their spouse that they've got a credit card. Or they just keep spending, you know, and not respecting the budget of the household.
Right.
Like that can be something, you know, like that can cause, that erodes trust.
Yeah. Well, in regard to that kind of thing, I mean, I know that I've definitely seen couples where there's one member, right? One of the partners comes into the marriage with credit card debt, but they didn't talk about that before they were married.
Oh, very,
you know?
yeah, right.
So there are things like that can, from the very outset, kind of erode a foundation of trust, or at least put some cracks in there. You know, like bring some questions into, you know, is this person going to be honest with me? You know, they weren't honest with me about everything before we got married. You know.
Yeah. So what else is there that you've not been honest with me about?
Right.
Mm-hmm. And so, and then typically, the person that hasn't been honest doesn't own it. And like they get defensive about it.
Yeah.
You know, and goes, well, I mean, I told you what you needed to know, or, you know, you didn't ask that question, you know?
Yeah.
And so they don't own it and go, man, yeah, I can see that what I've done has impacted our trust, you know? And
yeah. Well, and even that phrase. So like when you say, I told you what you needed to know. Mm-hmm. Well, man, I mean, who gets to determine what they need to know?
Yeah.
And certainly our tendency is going to be to cover up things that we don't want the other person to know sometimes for good reason, right? You don't want to hurt them or put them under stress or whatever. And so you withhold something from them. Well, they don't need to know about that. I don't want to bother them with that. I don't worry them with that. So that's the benign, right? That's kind of the benign. And then there are the things where it's like, I know that I've done things that I shouldn't have, or things that are going to be upsetting, and so I'm going to intentionally withhold that information because I don't want to deal with conflict or I know this will damage our relationship, whatever. I mean, so there's a spectrum where it's like, sometimes there's a really good, I say good reason, it's not really a good reason, but
a particular reason,
a good intention.
Okay.
Right. You have a good intention for withholding something. So that's one end of the spectrum, and the other end of the spectrum where it's, I'm hiding things intentionally because I know that I'm.
Well, and I do think that sometimes, like when you're dating, maybe it's not appropriate to come out and say that I'm X amount of dollars in debt, or you can just say like, hey, yeah, I have some credit cards or whatever. Cause like maybe you don't like, hi, my name is Jen Stanley and I have, debt.
Yeah.
Like,
you don't want to, you don't have to wear a t-shirt with your credit score on it. Then
Right. But as the relationship progresses, like, there comes a time to be more and more revealing in that way.
Yeah.
Like more, you share more things and to say, well, I let you know I had some credit card debt, but I didn't tell you to what extent.
Right.
And so like you want to continue to open up about that. Just because you talked about it one time doesn't mean you never revisit the topic again. Like as the relationship goes deeper, those topics go deeper.
Yeah. Well, and look, we know there's a fear that's associated with those kinds of things. That the other person, if they knew this about me, if they knew X, then they would not want to be in relationship with me. And that's a legitimate fear, right?
Yeah.
I'm not saying that, we shouldn't ever feel that way, or that there's not a good reason that we might have that impulse. But the reality is that we want someone to be with us because, in spite of the fact that they know our junk, right? We want them to love us and be in it with us. And so if we're withholding things from them, then there's never going to be a foundation of truth that a relationship is built on. And if a relationship is not built on a foundation of truth and honesty and openness, then there's always going to be opportunity then for mistrust to be sown. There's always going to be an opportunity then for, I don't even know the word that I'm looking for, but for that mistrust to rear its head, because I've not built on a foundation of honesty. And so then we're setting ourselves up for failure.
Well, and I think you made a good point when you said a lot of times it's based in, I don't want to disappoint the other person, or I don't want them to be angry with me and it end up in rejection. So like there was a married couple that I was working with that we were working on trust because like the husband didn't come home from work right away and like said that he was doing something that he really wasn't doing. So something, I don't remember, it's been a little bit, so I don't remember the exact details, but something like maybe here's what it was. He went and got a massage, but I think that he told his wife that he was still working because he was afraid that if she found out that he was getting a massage and like taking care of his achy muscles, that she would be upset with him because then she was stuck at home with the younger kids.
Okay.
And so when we talked to her about that, she said, no, I would have been okay with it. I'm more upset that you lied about it and that I figured out that you were there than had you just been straight up about what was going on. And so I think there's two issues in that situation. One, I think that for that one, the wife needs to create an environment where the husband can say, I have a need.
Yeah.
Like I need to go get a massage. My muscles are really, really tense based on the job that I do. Like I need to take care of myself. Right. There needs to be an environment where they feel safe enough to tell you that. Cause sometimes like we can be kind of cranky about those things and like bite your head off and they don't feel safe expressing what they need. And so like we need to create an environment where you can say those things, but then also like the spouse needs to be honest, and say, this is what I need to do. This is what I'm doing.
Right. So there's a couple of things that come to mind with a scenario like that. So number one, like, maybe that the husband felt like he was being selfish by going to get a massage, right? But then secondly, that's a trust issue too. He didn't feel like that he could trust his wife to understand
what his needs are.
Yeah. or be sensitive to his need, even if she didn't really understand it. Just go, well, okay. I mean, if you need to do that, that's okay. And so even that is really a trust issue when you come back to,
at the core.
Yeah.
And so, have there been scenarios like that you've been cautious to want to tell me?
I don't think so. I mean, I will say, well, no. But I will say, like, I definitely tend toward denying myself of things that I want in order to serve our family.
Well, and sometimes I even have to like talk you in to do something that you want because you'd say no to that.
Yeah, and yes, and so that just kind of is my default mode, and so there are certainly things that I've wanted. I can't say needed, but there's certainly things that I've wanted that I've just not ever mentioned because
well, sometimes I think you don't mention it because it would stress me out.
Right.
Because so we'd be like, particularly early on when financially things weren't amazing, when you just, hey, that's a pretty cool guitar. I'd love to have that. So then so I run the finances at our house, and so then I'm like, oh, okay, how can I find $2,000 in this budget to buy this guitar? And you're just dreaming.
Right. And I'm just going, man, that would be nice to have.
And I'm just oh, crap. How much plasma am I going to have to give to come up? I've never given plasma. But thinking, what am I going to do to make this happen? And so it would absolutely stress me out whenever you would talk about ooh, that's kind of cool. And so then I probably rained on your parade a lot because it would just be going, oh, I don't know how we could do that.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's like, to me, that guitar that was hanging on that wall or whatever, I was as realistic as a Ferrari in my mind. It wasn't like,
Same.
Yeah. Well, but if I'd have said, ooh, I love that Ferrari, that'd be awesome to have. Would you have felt like you had? Yeah. And so to me, it's like the same thing.
But it's not because for you being a musician, that's part of your trade, right?
Yeah.
That's like me saying, oh, I need a therapist couch, whatever. It's something, it's a tool that you need. And so it would make sense that you would want that or that,
Sure.
So you don't need a Ferrari.
No,
you don't need it. So that feels very different, right?
Well,
you don't need a Ferrari to be preaching. In fact, that would be really questionable if you should have been a Ferrari as a pastor. Where's my ties going?
Yeah, no doubt.
So anyway, I think that those are scenarios for us that, so I think in that situation, there were early times on that I probably prevented you from dreaming out loud.
Okay.
Would that be fair?
Yeah,
because
maybe.
you're I can't talk about that because she's going to freak out and go, oh, we can't buy that.
Well, and so in regard to that, then I think that's probably true. No, I know that's true.
Yeah, it is.
And so then there was a sense in which, in that season at least, I didn't feel like that I could trust you with my dreams. Mm-hmm. Because. Mm-hmm. And so how do people navigate that kind of thing?
And then I think the opposite for me was I didn't think I could trust you with helping me manage the family because I'm thinking you have no idea what that would do to us to try to do that.
Yeah.
Right. So I also need to say though that I did save some money and surprised you with a guitar, that blue Duesenberg guitar
that's true
that you play at church.
Yeah.
I gave you money to go do that.
Yeah.
So
it is.
Go ahead and tell them that that's a good thing.
Yep. So.
Yeah.
Jennifer needs some praise.
I do now. For that. That's a big deal.
No, so really, she saved up money all year, one year.
Yeah.
And presented it to me at Christmas and let me go buy the guitar that I wanted. And I had been really wanting that guitar for a long time.
That's right. I did good.
Yeah. And it is still to this day the nicest guitar that I own. I do have one that's more expensive, but the Duesenberg still it's just a really good guitar.
Yeah, well, good. So anyway, I did try to hear what you needed and take care of those things, but that was a deal though.
Yeah.
Anyway, I don't even remember I totally sidetracked us on that, so I don't.
Yeah,
what did you ask
so
me?
we were just talking about being able to. I didn't feel like I could trust you with my dreams.
Oh, okay.
And I think probably you felt like my head was in the clouds and I didn't understand where our family was at financially.
Yeah.
And so So how do people navigate that kind of thing? What could I have done in that season, or what have I done since then that's helped you to know, hey, I understand where we are. And when I dream, it's not because I think we need to put ourselves in debt for me to go get, a guitar pedal.
Well, I think maybe you preface it by, hey, I'm just talking out loud, or I'm just dreaming right now.
Yeah.
It's like, I know we can't do this, but,
Right.
and so then that felt different, I think. And then just me bringing our situation to you, saying, hey, this is where we're at. Here's our budget. Like, this is
Yeah.
what we're dealing with.
So what about families that maybe they're in a situation where the husband just had to have that bass boat, right? Mm-hmm. And it has put their family in a difficult place. And so the wife doesn't feel like she can trust her husband with their money because they're drowning because he had to have this bass boat. Or it could be the other way around. Maybe there's maybe the wife continues to spend and shop and do whatever. And the husband's going, we can't do this anymore. And so then that starts to create an environment where one person is squirreling money away, or hiding money from their spouse, that kind of thing. Or, what do people do?
Well, I mean, hopefully you can have an honest conversation, but there's usually a lot of emotion tied to that.
Yeah.
And so I don't know that that they get to the heart of the matter sometimes. They're just angry because neither one of them feels seen, because the one that's spending the money feels like that they make some money and that they deserve nice things. And so then, so if that means they have to eat peanut butter and jelly for 6 months, they're going to do it because they want that item that they feel like they are entitled to. Right. And then you've got the other person going like, how can you jeopardize our entire family's security because you want a boat?
Right.
And so then it's, it represents just not being on the same page and not really communicating well about financially what's happening. But absolutely trust is eroded in those moments because you're like, I can't let my bass boat husband have access to the finances because he'll ruin me.
Right.
And then I won't have the security that I need. Or I got to make sure that my wife only has $10 a week or she raids TJ Maxx. I don't know. But like there's these situations where you feel like you have to manage the other one and you're not really communicating. Well, you're just not you're not on the same team in those situations.
Right. Well, and it, as we're talking through this, the thing that sticks out to me is that what happens when a breach of trust occurs in a relationship is that the person who breaks the trust is focused on their need first, right? Or their want. Sometimes it's not even a need, right?
Yeah.
So, to go to the bass boat scenario, no one needs a bass boat.
Unless you're a professional bass fisherman.
Well, you only become that after you have the boat. You know what I mean? So,
Okay.
Well, but so,
Okay.
So that you understand what I'm saying, at least, right? No one needs a bass boat. They're great. I'd love to have one, right? I'm not saying don't get a bass boat.
Don't stress me out. No,
Right.
I'm just kidding.
Yeah, right. So I'm not telling anybody not to go and get a bass boat,
Right.
but I'm saying no one needs one.
Right.
No one needs a quad. No
Right.
one needs they're toys, right? And when we are willing to put our desire for that thing above the health and above the needs of our family, or even if we go, well, we can make it, but we know it's going to cause stress on our family, and we're, it's when we're focused on what we want first that trust is breached in every scenario. Even
That's true.
Even if you take it to to a place of like infidelity, right? When what you are focused on is what you want. Either a want or need that's not being met at home, and then someone else starts to scratch that itch, and look at you in a certain way or say nice things to you or whatever, and you start to indulge that. You're focused on your want, you're focused on your need before you are focused on the needs of your relationship, the needs of your spouse, the needs of your family.
Yeah, no, I think that's really good insight that that really sums it up well. Because if you put your family first, then you're not going to be focused on what you need.
Right.
And so that's either side of the aisle, the husband or the wife, is able to do that.
Look, and man, I feel like this is sometimes I feel like, I'm doing things on repeat, but really one of the most difficult challenges of marriage is that thing
Is dying to yourself.
Yes, and learning to live for the needs of the other person. You know, to live selflessly rather than selfishly.
Yeah.
Because our tendency, our first instinct for every person, right? You know, even the most caring and sharing and generous person that you know, their first instinct is selfish. It's just how we just are. We you know, we come from the womb that way.
Yeah.
Because all we know is our need, right? And learning to live outside of that, learning to overcome that is one of the greatest challenges of living in human relationship, and especially in marriage. Living for the other person is huge.
So if this is like an aha moment for someone, what do you think they should be doing when it comes to trust? So let's say that someone's listening, the bass boat guy's listening, and he's like, yeah, that was really not great on my position. I shouldn't have done that. What do you feel like the first steps would be?
Own it. Talk about it.
Yeah.
Right? Set your spouse down, you know, or, you know, I say set them down. Set them down. Find an opportunity. Find an opportunity to have that conversation and say, I'm sorry.
Yeah. And be willing to get rid of it if they need to.
If they need to, yeah. I mean, every option should be on the table, up to and including, like, selling off the things that we need to, you know. And I know we're talking a lot about financial stuff, but like, if it's an inappropriate relationship, maybe not even an affair, but just somebody that you know, are closer to than you should be, and your spouse is uncomfortable with the relationship, everything should be on the table, up to and including cutting off all contact with that person.
Yeah.
What the vow that you made to your spouse is that I will love you, I will forsake all others. That's the vow, right? I'll forsaking all others in sickness and in health, in good times and in bad times, you know, rich or poor, till death do us part, right? And forsaking all others means forsaking all others. It means like I will cut off every other relationship if that is what it takes.
So I have paused with that though, because that can be a form of like abuse.
Control and abuse. Yes.
Yeah, like if you are doing that because like you don't want them to have access to their family because you want to be able to control their every move, that feels problematic. So,
right.
So I have a hard time like signing off on that aspect of things.
And I am referring specifically to an inappropriate relationship that is causing damage to your marriage relationship.
Okay.
Just want to make that clear.
Yeah, because I think a husband showing up and say you can have no friends and no contact with your family.
Yeah,
like
no, that's abuse.
Okay. All right. Good. And so, so yeah, I think being willing to own it, but then also the spouse is getting the conversation. You know, like so Bass Boat shows up to his wife and says, "I shouldn't have done this." Then that's not the time to rub their nose in it.
No, you need to receive that. And you need and be grateful. I mean, and I know that may seem like a weird thing to say, but like appreciate what they're doing. You know, recognize their vulnerability, recognize the difficulty of that conversation.
Yeah,
and make it a safe place for them to do that, and
appreciate, and just say, I appreciate you saying that. Like, you know, thank you for that. Because like if you take on, I told you that. If you'd listened to me in the first place, we wouldn't be dealing with this. Like that is not going to create an environment where it feels okay to own your crap,
right?
And say I shouldn't have done that.
If you want them to be able to trust you, right? I know. So the Bass Boat guy breached a trust, right? But when he comes to his wife with that thing, or you know, whatever the scenario is, right? It could be reversed. When the wife comes to the husband, whatever. But when when the person
offending spouse,
yes, when the offending spouse comes to the other, right? When he comes to you and says, "Hey, I bought this bass boat and I know it's a problem, and I want you to know that I'm sorry," and you know, and he needs to know in that moment that he can trust his wife. Right. And if she rubs his nose in it, if she does the I told you so's and, you know, wags her head and snaps her fingers in a Z and, you know, whatever.
Oh, Lord. That's some early 2000s.
Yeah,
okay,
right. So, you know, but if that's a crucial moment, if the wife does not respond well to it, then
it's going to be hard for them to want to do that again in the future.
Right.
You're not creating an environment where like it feels safe to own it.
I can't trust her to tell her that I've screwed up and, she's not going to be on my team and, yeah.
All the things. And so like communication is two ways, right? So, and how you communicate it and then how you receive it. And so like we have to be mindful of those things. And if you are wanting things to shift in your relationship, we have to do things differently. So if you're typically in a I told you that kind of spouse, then you're not going to get, you're not going to grow.
Yeah.
Right. Because like that's not a healthy environment to be able to like really process where you're at.
So, I mean, so far we've talked about kind of like breaches of trust, but what can couples do just to build an environment of trust from the very beginning? Like, how do you just kind of build a relationship of trust?
Well, I think it's communicating. I mean, and talking about it honestly and just saying, bass boat guy talks about, hey, I would love to get a bass boat at some point. Can we talk about how to put that in our budget? And so like realistically, what would we need to save in order to do this? Being able to say what your desires are and it feel like it's safe to do that.
So what can couples do? So to like, how can couples both be involved in the financial decisions of their family? What kind of things can they do that will create
Well, if you haven't done Dave Ramsey, that's an important thing. And so like going through the Dave Ramsey financial piece is a good thing to try to get on the same page and make sure that you know how to do a budget and like get out of credit card debt and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so, and talking through the budget together, I think, and making plans and saying, so make sure that both parties know this is how much money we have coming in. This is how much money we have going out.
Right.
And so, we need to allocate it appropriately. And
so typically in a household, there's one person who kind of handles the bills, like, no one writes checks anymore, but make sure the bills are paid, balances the registry, all of that kind of thing. And so that typically falls on one spouse and not the other. And so a lot of times the spouse who, kind of does the bookkeeping, can feel like the other person is not involved. And so I think you make sure that you're having conversations, even if one of you is doing the registry and doing all the bookkeeping and the other one, at least from an administrative standpoint, isn't as involved in the finances of the family. Maybe make sure you're having conversations. Maybe sit down together to do the bills if that's helpful for you. At the very least, have a conversation about, hey, here's what's due right now. Here's kind of what our budget looks like. Here are some things that are coming up. Make sure that you're just talking about it. When stress comes in is when the person who handles all of the administration of the business of the household doesn't feel supported by the other person.
Right.
And so that's when those conversations aren't happening. They feel like they're isolated. They feel like it's all on them, and then.
Well, because usually there's one spouse that like really feels ownership of it, and the other one is kind of like laissez-faire about it. Not always, but just kind of like isn't as stressed about those things. And so then
in defense of, and I am the person, by the way, in our house who doesn't do the bookkeeping. Jennifer does all the bookkeeping. So what I will say is that when you don't see the numbers every day, you don't worry about it.
Yeah.
Not because you're unconcerned about it. Well, maybe you are, but only because you don't know. It's about ignorance. It's not about, so if somebody in the relationship, has I can't even say the word now. Yeah. Yeah. If it feels like they don't care, or aren't concerned, maybe I should say it that way. If it feels like they aren't concerned, it's not because they don't care. It's typically because they don't know. Right. And so again, that kind of openness and communication, making sure that we know what's going on in our family, both parties, that we know what's going on in our work lives, that we know what's going on in our personal lives, that we know what's going on with our kids, that we know what's like, you're talking about all of these things. A lot of times, it's not, well, I'll just say it this way. A lot of times it's a lack of communication that's causing the issue, not that the other person really is not on our team. It's that they don't know what you need from them.
Yeah. Well, and if you're talking about trusting as far as the other person, like you may think, well, they like I can't. They A, don't understand what we're dealing with here, and B, they're not going to care anyway. They're going to do what they want to do, and so there's no point in having this conversation because So when the numbers don't match, when you've got X amount going out and much less coming in, and the other person's kind of like, man, it'll be fine.
Right.
You're
right.
like you don't feel like that person is in the trenches with you. And so then it feels very one-sided. And then you feel like you're just the one managing everything and that you have to hold it all. And so it really is important that both parties be involved.
Yeah. Well, and going back to that kind of entitlement thing, where maybe there is, one or both parties even in a relationship that it's like, well, I work hard for this money. I can spend it however I want. I think there are some real big questions that you have to ask about. Number one, why do you feel that way? What is it that makes you feel like that you can put your needs above the needs of your family? What is it that, why do you not?
Well, I mean, if we go back to husbands love wives like Christ loved your church, it's like, he gave us a life. It's
right.
He could have said, I'm God. I don't have to do this.
Yeah. Well, and so that's where I was going with that. So why don't I love my wife in a way that would make me sacrificially take care of her, deny my wants, to take care of her, to show her that I cherish her, to show her that,
well, and I think that the wives can give in too, right? Like either, either respect the rules that have been set or, if you have a tendency to spend and that your husband doesn't want you to spend, that you go, okay, so I'm going to curb that, or I'm going to ask for a budget, or saying, hey, I'm going to say no to this for a while so that my husband understands that I'm willing to submit to the budget.
Yeah.
Kind of thing.
Yeah. And then, I know we talked a lot about kind of the financial aspects, and I think that is an area where couples really struggle with trust. But I also think, like I've heard, I've seen families with kids, where one parent will let the kids do something or get something for them or whatever, and go, hey, don't tell your mom, or don't tell your dad about this.
I only do that when I take them to the meadows.
Oh yeah,
yeah. So I'm guilty of that. But I get caught at the meadows all the time, like by people that either work there that know me, or I see people that I know, and I'm like, don't tell my kids I'm here.
Don't tell my kids I'm here. Okay, because why would you tell our children to hide the fact that you got them ice cream from me?
Not from you, but the other siblings.
No, so I'm talking about the spouse.
I'm confessing that I take my kids to the meadows and tell them not to tell the other siblings that they got to go. They do it though. They tell them anyway, so it doesn't do me any good. But I at least ask them to. And I tell people at the meadows not to tell anybody that they saw me at the meadow. If you're not local, Meadows is an ice cream, like a seasonal ice cream place. I'm just being honest, so maybe I need to change my ways.
Okay.
All right, go ahead.
So, but no, I mean, if
you shouldn't be talking someone into hiding things,
right?
Unless it's the meadow,
right? Well, and it oftentimes is indicative of a bigger issue that you're hiding things from your spouse,
or if you buy things and you have to leave them in your car because you don't want them to know. Like I know women that do that. Like they'll buy things and they'll hide it in the car, and then their husband will go, "How long have you had that?" "Oh, I've had it a long time." Yeah. I've had it a while. So I didn't just get that, or whatever. And so they don't tell people. They don't tell their spouse. Like I knew someone their trunk was just full of things that they had purchased, and they're slowly taking them into the house, so their husband didn't know they bought them. Yeah,
and so
that's not good.
No, that's not good. So the husband in that scenario doesn't feel like he can trust his wife. Right. To not overspend, to not buy things that they don't need. And the wife in that scenario doesn't feel like that she can trust her husband
to say, this is what I just bought.
Yeah. Or even something deeper, right? To trust her husband to go, even if you go, I don't know why I buy all this stuff. I don't know what need this is meeting for me, or why, and then we get into a lot of bigger things, because oftentimes, and again, we're back to the financial stuff, but I think it's indicative of a lot of other things in our relationship. A a lot of times we're buying things because it's meeting a felt need. You know, that
it's filling a void.
Yeah. And we need to be able to wrestle with that even and go, what is it? What deficit do I feel?
Yeah, that's
Right?
good. Yeah.
Why do I feel like I need these things? Because intellectually, right, we're able to step back and go, logically we're able to step back and go, that's not something I really needed. That's something that I wanted. Right? I could have lived without that. But there's something in us that makes us feel like we need it. Right?
Yeah.
Like this is gonna bring some joy into my life, or this is gonna bring some satisfaction into my life. This is gonna bring something that's lacking. And not just in the sense of this would be a lot of fun, but in the sense of like there's a need in my soul, right? That this is gonna meet. There's a longing in my soul this is gonna meet. You know,
Yeah, so you need to figure out what that's about.
yeah, because I mean, it's more than just, oh, that's a cool guitar. It'd be nice to have that. And it's, if I don't have that guitar, then my life will not be as good.
Yeah.
Right?
Or it could be a keeping up with the Joneses situation, which
Yeah. So-
we definitely saw that growing up. You know, our generation was definitely the one that was doing that, or our parents were, in a lot of ways. And so, have you remember that commercial where the guy's on the lawnmower and he says, and I'm in debt up to my eyeballs.
Oh,
Remember
yeah.
that? I don't remember what the commercial was for, but he's like, I have this great house, I have this great car, I'm mowing this great lawn, but I'm in debt up to my eyeballs. Right. And so, like, putting on a presentation that that's not who you really are, right? Like, it looks like you've got all these great things, but you
feel like that you have to do that in order to be valuable, right? That what other people think about you or the things that you have define who you are. And so that's something that then starts to cause trust to be eroded in a relationship, because you continue to feed a need that really will never be satisfied. Because let's say I go get that guitar. Well, and then one of my buddies has 5 guitars, and they're all really nice. And they get, so, well, then I've got to, I can't let him get ahead of me, and so then we
sacrifice things that we probably shouldn't
that
have.
we shouldn't in order to,
including trust.
Right. And then, but it's a never ending thing.
Right.
Because if I build a big barn, this guy's going to build a bigger barn. Well, and then I'm, and it just keeps going and keeps going and keeps going, until it all comes crashing down. Really.
Right. And so I think we could probably kind of switch this title a little bit. That's really about trust and finances, because I could really focus quite a bit on that. And I think there's other areas of trust that we can dive into. But
yeah, and we can talk about rebuilding trust maybe after an infidelity, or rebuilding trust, after a financial crisis or something like that. There are other areas certainly that we could talk about, but this feels like we've kind of honed in on finances.
Yeah,
sure.
trusting with money. So did you have any songs about that?
Not off the top of my head.
Okay.
I'll come up with something.
Okay. Okay. So this episode will have some kind of song title about money.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean,
Mo money.
money.
Okay. Okay. We'll figure that out.
All right.
So I don't know if we want to go ahead and go into the next level of trust on our next episode, or if we'll pick something different. But I'm sure that we will pick up this trust topic again, because I think it's really crucial for marriages. Because that's when trust gets eroded. It creates.
It affects everything.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
makes a chasm between you.
If we don't feel like we can trust our spouse with our emotions, if we don't feel like we can trust our spouse with our true self, if we
with
don't
our
feel
children,
like we can trust our spouse with our children, if we don't feel like we can trust our spouse with finances, if we don't feel like, there's all kinds of, trust is such it's vital to a healthy relationship. It is lifeblood for a healthy relationship.
Yep. So we will continue with the trust train at some point.
All right.
Okay. Till next time.
Bye.
So bad.